Most people waste hours building RAG agents in n8n, but with Google's Gemini File Search, you can now do this in minutes. Unlike a traditional RAG where you have to build a data pipeline to process files, run them through an embeddings model, then ingest everything into a vector database, Gemini File Search basically cuts out most of this process. Now you just upload the file to Google Cloud Storage and it handles everything. Your RAG agent goes from looking like this to something much leaner like this. So here's how you can try this out in n8n. I've built the entire workflow here that creates a two-way sync between a Google Drive folder and the cloud storage. Whenever you add a file to the folder, it gets uploaded to the cloud. Delete a document from the folder and it's removed from the cloud storage too. This way, your RAG agent only uses the documents you want it to use. I'll walk you through on how to set this up. If you want to download this for free to follow along, just click the link in my description, go to n8n templates, and you'll find the download link there. To give you a high-level overview, the workflow is broken up into 4 different parts. The first is creating the storage folder in the cloud. This is where all your documents will be stored for your RAG agent to use. You only need to run this once when setting everything up. The second part watches a dedicated folder in Google Drive for anything new. Once the trigger detects an upload, it gets pushed into your storage, then adds the document ID and file name as a record in n8n's data table. The next part manages your cloud storage. It removes any documents from the cloud that have since been deleted from your watch folder on Google Drive. The way it works is by pulling all the files from the watch folder and comparing them to the records found in that n8n table. If a document record only exists in the data table, that means the file has been removed from your Google Drive and the automation will remove it from the cloud as well. The last part is the actual RAG agent. It only needs to use an HTTP tool to retrieve answers from your documents. Now that you understand how it works, I'll show you how to quickly set this up. First, we need to set up the cloud storage. Go ahead and open this HTTP node. There are 2 things you need to configure: your query authentication and naming your storage space. To set up the authentication, under generic credential type and query auth, create a new credential. For the name, type in key and add your Google API key to the value field. If you don't know where to get the API key, just type Google Cloud Console in your browser and click on the first result. Open the menu on the left and under API and Services, go to Credentials. There you should see an option to create an API key. Once you've done that, copy and paste the key in the value field. Make sure to give it a name, then save your credentials. In the same node, scroll down until you see the body parameters and change the value of display name to whatever you want your storage to be called, then close out the node and execute the workflow. This will create the cloud storage that your RAG agent will use. Make sure to pin this node because you're going to need to copy the storage name a few times. Next, you want to set up the credential for the Google Drive nodes. In the configuration, you'll see that you need 2 things here: the client ID and client secret. To get those, go back to the Google Cloud Console and in the drop-down menu, click OAuth Client ID. Under application type, choose web application, then give it a name. Next, add a URI under authorized redirect URIs. Go back to n8n, copy this redirect URL and paste it in the field there. Then hit create. Now you have your client ID and secret that you'll use in n8n. Make sure to save this somewhere or download the JSON they provide because you won't be able to view this again after an hour or so. Go back into n8n, paste the client ID and secret, then sign in with Google. It might give you a warning saying that Google hasn't verified this app, but don't worry, just press advance and at the bottom click go to n8n. Now that you set up your credential, you'll need to create a folder on Google Drive that n8n will check for any new files. Once you've done that, copy the link, which should look something like this, and paste it in the field here. Next, you want to configure this HTTP node, which will initiate the upload and set the metadata. This node alone won't upload the file into your cloud storage. It essentially tells Google that you have a file you want to upload and this is the name you want to give it. This step is actually essential because it labels the file in your cloud storage with your doc ID. Then later, when a file gets deleted from Google Drive, the automation will know exactly which file to delete from the cloud by matching the ID. Since you already connected your query authentication in the first HTTP node, you'll just need to choose that credential in the query auth here. Now you'll need to replace the placeholder in the URL with the name of your cloud storage. To get that, go back to the pinned HTTP node, copy the name, and replace the placeholder. Next, you want to connect your Google Drive credential to the download file node. This node will grab the PDF from your folder and turn it into a binary file, which will then be sent to the second HTTP node that finalizes the document upload into your cloud storage. The best part, you don't even need to configure this. Your credentials will be sent forward from the previous node and included in the URL. Let's run this to make sure that everything's working fine. I'm gonna add this PDF about AI governance into the folder and run the automation from this import binary node here, and it looks like everything works. Now pin the import binary node as well as the trigger because we're gonna need to map a couple of things in the last node here. Go ahead and open this last node and create a new table table. You'll want to add two string columns. The first is name and the second is file ID. Go back to the workflow and you should see the table appear. Now map the name expression from the import binary to the name field. And for file ID, click on the magnifying glass, type ID, and scroll down until you see data from the Google Drive trigger. You'll want to choose the one that says string of number and text, not the ones under permissions or permission IDs. Let's run this last node just to make sure that the document you've just uploaded into the cloud storage is also in the data table. Next, we're going to configure the workflow that removes documents from the cloud storage that are no longer in your Google Drive folder. In the set node here, you'll want to add your folder ID, which can be found in the URL here. This will then feed into the next node, which is an API call to Google Drive to grab all the files from a specific folder. Unfortunately, n8n doesn't have a native node that can do this, so we need to use an HTTP node to grab all the files. What you want to do here is connect your Google Auth 2 credentials. So to do that, select predefined credentials, then type Google OAuth 2 API, and in the drop-down menu, create a new credential. Since we just created a client ID and secret, you'll want to paste those in the field here. For the scope, I've included the link you'll want to paste in the sticky notes. Just copy and paste that in the scope field. Next, you'll want to sign in and it should be good to go. Now we have a split node that breaks up the array from the HTTP node into individual items. In the data table node, you'll want to select the table you stored your document records in. Next, the compare dataset node will identify whether or not a document has been deleted. If so, it'll output through the top branch here. To test this out, I'm just going to delete the file from Google Drive, then run the automation from this node. We can see that the automation detected that a file was deleted, and now we need to connect our credentials to this HTTP node. And for the last node here, it just removes the record from your data table. So select your table, then choose any condition. For the column, select file ID equals and map the file ID from the compare dataset node to the value field. For the RAG agent here, before we configure anything, we'll need the storage name again from that first HTTP node. Once you've copied that, open the file search tool, scroll down to the body parameters, and replace the placeholder here with the storage name. Then you want to connect your query auth and everything should be good to go. You can modify the system prompt for the AI agent, but I've kept it super simple by prompting it to just use the tools provided to answer questions as well as cite the sources. So let's test this RAG agent with a question we know it could answer using the doc. Let's try this one here about Europe's AI regulation. Once we hit send, we should see the agent use the file search tool before replying, and there we go, and we could see that it formed its answer directly from the documents. So that's how you set up Google's file search on n8n. It's helpful if you want to start using RAG agents without dealing with a lot of the technical hurdles. With that being said, if you guys have any questions or automations you'd like to see, just drop a comment. And if you found this helpful at all, I'd appreciate it if you also dropped a like. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.